Good morning from the Oklahoma Insurance Department. My name is Rachel Fan, and I work in the Communications Division here at OID. Thank you so much for joining us for our Senior Fraud webinar series. For your awareness, I do want to mention that this webinar is being recorded. Before we get started, I wanted to share a little bit about what the Oklahoma Insurance Department, or OID, does. OID is a state agency, and we are responsible for regulating the insurance market and enforcing the insurance-related laws of the state. We have an entire team devoted to protecting consumers by providing them with accurate information and timely assistance. We can also help deal with your insurance company if you can't reach an agreement regarding a claim. If you would like to reach out to us for help, or if you have any questions, you can call us toll-free at 1-800-522-0071. And you can also visit our website at oid.ok.gov. For today's webinar, you will be able to see and hear us. However, we cannot see or hear you. If you have a question, please feel free to post that in the chat. Down at the bottom of your screen, you will see several options, one of those being chat, and you can click on that and you can type your question there. We will save time to answer questions at the end of the webinar. Now I'd like to introduce Ray Walker. Ray is the Divisional Director for the Medicare Assistance Program at the Oklahoma Insurance Department. Mr. Walker has over 20 years of experience working in and around the healthcare industry, primarily in insurance, and has had the privilege of speaking to groups across the state and around the country. Ray, over to you.
Thanks, Rachel. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this sixth webinar in our series. This week's topic is going to be senior scams and how to avoid them. Over the past 5 weeks, we've had a number of webinars. We've talked about cyber safety, Social Security fraud, banking fraud, and a number of other topics. If you missed any of those, good news, we've got those recordings on our website, and you can go back and you can listen to those. You can share them with other individuals that you think might benefit from the information. So we'll talk more about how you can get to those recordings a little bit later on. For those of you who are attending for the first time, we're very happy that you could join us. We hope you can join us for next Wednesday's topic as well. We're going to be talking specifically about Medicare fraud and ways you can protect yourself. And so we'll talk where you can register for that one as well. Wanted to remind everybody that these webinars are made possible in part due to funding that we receive from the Senior Medicare Patrol grant from the Administration for Community Living. This grant gives our department funds to go out and educate people on how they can protect themselves from becoming a victim of fraud, waste, and abuse in the Medicare system. Those of you who have joined us for our previous webinars know what I'm about to say. We lose approximately $60 billion every year from the Medicare Trust Fund to inappropriate activities. It may be fraud, or it may just be mistakes that people are making in billing. Whatever the case may be, it's $60 billion that could be being used to pay for actual medical care. So it's very important that we're all working together to try to keep this problem under control and do what we can to protect that trust fund, as well as each other. So now I want to introduce our speakers for today. We actually have 2 speakers that are joining us from the Attorney General's office. Charles A. Dickson III is the Deputy Attorney General and Director of the Oklahoma Medicaid Fraud Control Unit at the Office of the Oklahoma Attorney General. Mr. Dickson has been practicing law in Oklahoma since his admission in 1999, with 12 years of experience in private practice and 10 years with the Office of the Oklahoma Attorney General. He was appointed Director of the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit in August of 2021. Prior to admission as an attorney, Mr. Dickson worked primarily in banking and in the United States Army Reserve, receiving an honorable discharge at the rank of sergeant. Our next speaker this morning would be Caleb Smith, who is an Assistant Attorney General with the Office of the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Unit. Mr. Smith has worked in consumer protection since 2016 and specializes in general consumer protection, data security and privacy, and antitrust law, as well as robocall policy and enforcement. Mr. Smith has experience bringing both civil and criminal actions against individuals and businesses in violation of Oklahoma law, and has served on numerous task forces dedicated to the protection of consumers in the state marketplaces. He also presents at public-facing events such as seminars and town halls to equip Oklahomans to defend themselves against fraud and unfair deceptive trade practices. So Caleb, I believe you are our first speaker this morning.
Morning, everybody, and thank you to the insurance department for that introduction, and thank you guys for having me. Again, my name is Caleb Smith, and I am with the Oklahoma Attorney General's Office's Consumer Protection Unit. And so today, I'm going to be sharing on common schemes of consumer fraud, and this is going to be a sort of broad overview of a lot of the different kinds of fraud we see in the state of Oklahoma. So let's get into it. So, common types of fraud. These are the frauds we see the most of in the state of Oklahoma. We see telemarketing scams, distressed grandchild scams, prize and sweepstakes scams, international lottery scams, romance scams, gift card scams, home repair fraud, and charities fraud. And our unit, particularly with home repair fraud, has civil jurisdiction as well as criminal jurisdiction to enforce these laws. Okay, so talking about telemarketing fraud. According to a recent study by AARP, consumers lose more than $40 billion a year to telemarketing fraud, and people over the age of 50 account for the majority of all victims, and the amount of money continues to grow every year as fraudsters continue to develop new and inventive ways of taking people's money illegally. So, generally speaking, telemarketing is not illegal. That being said, it is a tool that bad actors use to try and scam people out of their money. And so here are a few tricks that are used by fraudsters and some tips to sort of suss out whether you are receiving a legitimate telemarketing call versus a illegal telemarketing call. So starting out, the tactic is to engage your emotions over your logical reasoning. So they're going to come at you fast, and they're going to place on you a sense of urgency. So you'll hear language like, you have to act now or the offer will expire, or you can't afford to miss this opportunity. They'll use buzzwords like high profit, no risk, high return, little risk, or that you want a free gift or vacation, but you have to pay in advance, and you have to pay now. Otherwise, the offer will lapse. They'll come at you with, you must send money, and you must give them a credit card number or bank card number immediately. And they'll continue to try and coax you into providing that information quickly and upfront before you can take time to do some research on your own. And again, they'll discourage that to accept the offer. There's no need to receive any written information about the company, or there's no need to reference them, including checking with the Better Business Bureau, which is a resource online that you can use to look up different businesses in Oklahoma's marketplace and see sort of how they've been reviewed by other consumers. Like I said, telemarketing, generally speaking, is not illegal, but you can cut down on the amount of calls you get by signing up for the National Do Not Call Registry. This is put on by the FTC, I believe, and their contact information is here on the slide at www.donotcall.gov, and their phone number is 1-888-382-1222. And while some people know about the National Do Not Call Registry, a lot of people don't know about the Attorney General's Telemarketer Restriction Act, Consumer Registry. So the state of Oklahoma has its own Do Not Call Registry that it maintains with businesses that solicit over telephone in the state of Oklahoma. And you can register online at our website at www.oag.ok.gov. And our telephone number is listed there as well at 405-522-0043. Oh, I've gone too far. So sticking with Do Not Call. So the Do Not Call list isn't going to completely eliminate all calls you get for telemarketing, right? So the law itself provides exceptions. So solicitations for charitable or religious groups, those are not subject to the do not call list. Solicitations for political candidates and causes, not subject to the do not call list. Not-for-profit organizations, solicitations to meet in person for business, as well as follow-up calls, which is the third one, which is a lot of language basically to say that if you have engaged somebody in a business relationship, they can follow up with you by telephone. And so these are the way the do not call registry works is you sign up on our website and we put you on the do not call registry. Businesses that solicit over telephone in the state of Oklahoma have to sign up with our office and then receive a copy of the do not call list. And then once they have that do not call list, they know that your number is listed and they won't call you. So this is going to cut down on the number of legitimate calls you get, with the exception of these listed here. It is important to note that the do not call list is not going to prevent illegal robocalls from coming to you. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but generally speaking, the do not call list operates to manage the number of calls you are getting from legitimate businesses. Of course, bad actors and fraudsters and people who are in violation of the law are not going to register with the state of Oklahoma to get their do not call list because they have no regard for whether they should or should not be calling someone. All right, moving on, distressed grandchild scams. These are also quite common. So here's the scenario. You are a grandparent and you receive a frantic call from someone you believe to be your grandchild. And I will pause here because there is new technology that is making this more difficult. So there's something called voice cloning, which is sort of a growing technology that will synthesize and sort of mix someone's voice to mimic it. So before, you might be able to discern off the bat, oh, that's not the voice of my grandchild. But now what happens is they can call the grandchild will answer and say, hello, this is so-and-so, and they can take little snippets of their voice and synthesize it into a sort of mimicked version of the person's voice. That's less common. That technology is a little more advanced than your run-of-the-mill grandchild scammer, but it is something to be aware of. So don't be completely reliant on recognizing their voice. Moving on, the supposed grandchild calls you and they sound distressed and they claim to be involved in some type of trouble while traveling in Canada or overseas. We actually see a lot of these saying that, oh, we're in Mexico and I've been arrested, or South America and even Africa. Generally, they'll say that they've been arrested, they've been in a car accident and need emergency repairs, or they've been injured and are in the hospital. Usually the scammer will ask the grandparent impersonating the grandchild. They will ask the grandparent to immediately wire money, either to post bail or for medical treatment or for car repairs or whatever the emergency is. And it won't stop there. Generally, if money is sent, they will continue to ask for more money and say, the money you sent before didn't cover everything. And that more money is required, and oftentimes they will try to prevent you from the main defense against this, which is reaching out to someone else. So they'll say, oh, I'm very embarrassed about this. Please don't tell mom and dad, or, please keep it a secret between me and you. And the reason they do that is the best defense against this type of scam is to call somebody and say, hey, I just got a call from John. He said he's in trouble. Have you heard from John lately? And that's really the best way to go about it. And again, these scammers know that, and so they're going to try and trick you into not contacting someone else. But really, that's the best way to sort of suss out whether your grandchild is actually in danger or in some emergency versus somebody trying to take your money, is to call somebody who knows that grandchild and say, hi, I've gotten a phone call from this person, and I just want to know, are they okay? Have you heard from them? What's going on? And moving on to prizes and sweepstakes scams. Scam. You've been informed that you could win or already have won a valuable prize or money, but you have to send money to cover delivery or taxes and fees first. So with this scenario, a few reminders: sweepstakes are free. Legitimate sweepstakes Buying merchandise or sending money is not going to increase your chances of winning. That wouldn't be a true sweepstakes. And generally speaking, bona fide contests will clearly disclose to you the terms, rules, entry procedures, and odds of winning. So if you're suspicious that the sweepstakes is illegitimate, you can say, what are the terms, sort of give me the breakdown of how this contest is being run. And if it's a scam, a lot of times they won't be able to provide that. And here's the big one. If you truly want a prize, you are not going to have to verify who you are with a credit card number. So if somebody says, you get a call that says, hi, you've won a cruise, thank you for entering. Please verify that you are the winner of this contest by sending your credit card number. If it is a legitimate and true contest, they are not going to need your credit card to verify who you are. They will already have that information. So leading into international lottery scams, first and foremost, I feel obligated to say this: playing a foreign lottery is illegal under federal law. That being said, if you are engaged over the telephone to participate in a foreign lottery, they will try and convince you that this individual representing the foreign lottery or somebody near to the foreign lottery has a secret backdoor way of winning. There are no secret systems for winning foreign lotteries. And if you purchase one lottery ticket, expect more bogus offers to come and more opportunities. So here, sucker lists. This is true of most types of telephone scams or internet scams. The more you engage them, and engagement can just be clicking a link or answering the phone. The more you engage them, they're going to circulate that you are a hit. And then other scammers are going to get you on the hit list and continue buzzing you because you've demonstrated that you're someone that is more likely to engage than somebody that immediately hangs up or doesn't answer at all. So unfortunately, the process for the scammers is, once they get some of your engagement, they're able to put you on a list and circulate you around to let others know and let their affiliates know that you are somebody who is a decent target for their scams. So here's the bottom line. According to the FTC, you should ignore all mail and phone solicitations for foreign lottery promotions, not only because they are very likely to be scams, but also because they are illegal. Moving on to talk about romance scams, these are becoming increasingly common as new dating apps and dating websites continue to appear. Dating websites and social media are tools that impersonators use for their schemes. In 2020, consumers reported losses of $304 million from romance scams. So these are a big deal. And these can appear on an overt application for dating, such as Tinder, but also they can appear just on regular social media like Facebook. And the way that they're going to scam you generally is they're going to create an attractive online profile to draw you in. Almost always it's going to be a picture of somebody that isn't them. So they will lift a picture from the web and use it to make up and use it alongside a made-up name to form an identity. Sometimes these can be real people, but a lot of times they just make it up. They take a picture and they make up a name and attach it to it. Once they have contacted you online, once you've sort of engaged that relationship, you'll notice that they continue to make excuses for not meeting in person. It's because they are not who they say they are. And during the COVID pandemic, this was particularly bad because excuses were very easy to make, saying, oh, I can't travel to you, it's dangerous out there. But even still, as we come out of the pandemic, you're going to see this where they say, oh, I'm out of town, or I've got this. They'll do anything to avoid meeting in person and keeping this relationship online to conceal their fraudulent identity. Eventually, they're going to ask you for money. That's the whole point of this scam, is they're bringing you in, playing on your emotions and trying to get you fraudulently roped into a relationship, and they're going to ask you for money. And there can be any reason for them to ask you for money. They can say they have a family emergency, medical bills, pet care bills, they could say that they're in trouble and You know, for example, they're in a violent relationship, or there's some violence going on in their home and they need money to get out. They're going to play on your emotions to try and get you to send money to help them, because they've sort of got you into this romantic relationship. And again, as you'll see, is a common thread with different types of scams. They're going to push on you a sense of urgency to act now, because diligence and sort of pausing and reflecting and talking to other people is the last thing these scammers want you to do. So, ways to make sure you aren't a victim of a romance scam, and these can apply to other scams as well. Do not send money or gifts to someone you haven't met in person, even if they send you money first. And talk to someone you trust about your love interest. It can be easy to miss things that don't add up, so pay attention if your friends and family are concerned. You know, and this is one of those things where you share about what's going on in your life, and somebody says, you know, so that seems weird to me, right? And it's not because you're not perceptive, it's because the other person you're talking to likely doesn't have any sort of investment in this relationship, so they can give you an objective look at what's going on and say, I don't know, you know, they seem great in the picture, but at the same time, you know, I can't see why they just can't meet you, and it's been months, that sort of stuff. Take your relationships online slowly and ask questions and look for inconsistent answers. This is not to say to be entirely cynical or entirely suspicious of everybody online, but at the same time, just be on your guard and be looking for those things that might indicate that the person you're talking to really isn't who they say they are. Generally, with romance scams, they're going to ask you to send gift cards. In 2020, reports of gift cards being used to send money in romance scams increased by 70%. Gift cards, along with wire transfers, the most frequently reported payment methods for romance scams. Most victims reported that they mailed gift cards or gave the card's PIN number to a scammer, and the median amount sent to romance scammers in 2020 was $2,500, which is more than 10 times the median loss across all other fraud types. So, as you can see by the numbers, this is a very effective type of scam, and it's one to be looking out for. Now, segueing into gift card scams are on the rise as a result of COVID-19. If you receive a phone call, an email, or a text message asking you to buy a gift card to settle a debt or make a payment, it's a scam. So these are going to be the things where you a lot of times get a call and somebody is impersonating the IRS or some other state or federal agency saying you have to reconcile a debt, or you have to make good on something that has gone awry with an account at a bank or something. And the big thing here is government agencies are never going to ask for payment by gift card, ever. That's not something they're going to do. In fact, generally speaking, if somebody asks you to pay them with a gift card, it's likely a scam, because that is a harder to trace method of moving money, because they flip the gift cards online. And so these will generally start with a phone call of somebody impersonating government agencies. Like I said, they'll claim they'll freeze your account or threaten to arrest you for immediate payment. Again, back to the theme of playing on your emotions. They want you to be afraid. They want to instill fear in you that you have to act now or something very bad is going to happen to you. The government's not going to do this, particularly if it involves, like I said, settling some sort of debt or issue with a federal or state agency. So another important point is they'll stay on the phone with you while you go to the store to purchase cards, gift cards or prepaid cards. And once you purchase it, they'll ask you for the numbers on the back. Those numbers on the back are all they need to capitalize on the gift card. They don't actually need the physical gift card. They can also, in effect, if you tell them the numbers on the gift card, it accomplishes the same thing. So just because you haven't mailed a card doesn't necessarily mean that they haven't capitalized on your purchase. Moving on to the next big one. This is a big one in the state of Oklahoma, is home repair fraud, particularly because of all of the severe weather we get. Generally speaking, a person's home is your most valuable asset, and finding a competent and reliable contractor is the first step to a successful home improvement project. So, tips for home improvement or repair. Beware of contracts that solicit door to door. This is going to be your, what this is getting at is your fly-by-night guys. A tornado has come through and it's torn up your roof, or hail damage, and they come to your door and say, "Hi, I've noticed that your roof is damaged, and if you pay me $2,000 up front, I'll repair it." That's something to be suspicious of. If somebody tells you they just happen to have materials left over from a previous job in the area, but that they only accept cash payments, if they do not list a business number in the local telephone directory or online, if they pressure you for immediate decisions, and again, that's another theme across this, legitimate businesses are going to respect your decision to decline an offer. If you continue to be pressed and pressured for an immediate decision, that's a red flag. If you're offered an exceptionally long guarantee, this is another theme. If the guarantee sounds too good to be true, it's probably because it's not true. And if you're asked for an entire payment up front, generally speaking, this is another red flag. A lot of contracts you'll pay an amount up front, and you'll pay when you'll make payments as the project continues or once the project is completed. Or if they suggest that you borrow money from a lender that the contractor knows and says, "Hey, I know this guy, you should ask him for money and that'll help you pay for the repairs I'm going to make on your house." These are all red flags. So, tips to avoid home repair fraud. You should always ask people you trust for contractor referrals. So if your roof is damaged, it's best to talk to somebody you know and say, "Hey, I've noticed damage to my roof. Who do you know that'll do a good job fixing this up?" Whenever possible, deal with local firms with roots in the community. Interview contractors carefully. Again, a legitimate business person is going to respect your questions and want to answer them honestly and thoughtfully so that they can entice you into doing business with them. Don't pay in full upfront, especially if they are asking for cash. Check the contractor's references, and if possible, visit their website to check the quality of their work for yourself. This can also include going online and just searching them on Facebook and seeing what people have said. Because if they've ripped people off, generally speaking, particularly in Oklahoma, you're going to hear about it. These people are going to go online and they're going to say, "Stay away from this person. They do bad business or they are a complete ripoff." Obtain at least 3 written estimates. Generally speaking, legitimate business persons are going to respect your decision to do this. That's how it works. You want to get the best work for the best price. So, it's not a bad thing to go out and get estimates from different contractors. Don't sign anything before reading it carefully. And Google them and look them up on the Better Business Bureau, or see if they have any complaints with our office. Moving on to another common type of fraud, charities fraud. Here are some warning signs of victimization. So with this, it's keep an eye out for these, and you can look out for a loved one or a family member or a friend who you might suspect is sending money to a fraudulent charity. If the person you know is getting frequent calls or direct mail requesting donations, they're making lots of payments to charities you've never heard of, or has trouble paying regular expenses, even though they haven't experienced a change in income, these can all be signs that somebody is losing money to an illegitimate charity. Avoid charities that refuse to provide written information about their identity, mission, overhead costs, and how donations are used. These are all things that legitimate charities are going to disclose to you if you ask, and generally speaking, they will disclose them without you asking. Avoid charities that do not provide proof that the contribution is tax deductible, or whose name resembles that of a better known or reputable organization. So be careful of those sort of almost the same names, but not quite, because generally speaking, those charities are going to be capitalizing on people's familiarity with the legitimate charity to sort of hope that people are tricked into sending money to the illegitimate one. And be aware of charities that call you and say, "Hey, thank you for making a pledge," or "Thank you last year for your donation," that you don't remember making. A lot of times that's a tool they'll use to open up and make you think that you've supported them in the past. And so perhaps you won't think that hard about it because, I've given to them in the past, I should give to them again. So be wary of any request for donation that you don't remember giving. Continuing, be wary of charities that ask you for a bank account or credit card information over the phone, or use high pressure tactics, or asking for donations in cash. Those are all red flags. Or if they guarantee sweepstakes winnings in exchange for a contribution, then again, it's a little bit of a combination of scams, right? Sort of mixing the charity scam in with the sweepstakes scam, or that they will even send you a courier or overnight delivery, emphasizing that they want your payment. So here are some tips to avoid charities fraud. Once a year, review potential charities and decide where your money will go. Be very calculated in where you want to give and how much you want to give. Donate to charities you're familiar with. You can consult with the Better Business Bureau that maintains reports on national and local charities, and their website is there at www.give.org. Check whether a charity is registered with the Oklahoma Attorney General. This is an important step for a charity. They not only have to be registered federally, but also registered with the state of Oklahoma if they would like to solicit donations within our state. Beware of sound-alikes and don't judge a charity by its name. Again, do some research, and if the charity tells you their name and it sounds familiar, have them spell it out for you so you can double check online to make sure that it's actually the real thing. Do not be pressured. Do not be afraid to hang up on an unsolicited caller, and this goes for any type of telemarketing call or any type of sweepstakes call. Never be afraid to hang up. Easy hang-up devices can be used to help seniors end calls without fearing they are being rude or abrupt, and do not give cash. So here are some general tips, and I'll probably add to this as I go because there are some themes that will sort of equip you to defend against these types of scams. Don't give your credit card or social security number to a telephone solicitor ever. Don't be afraid to ask questions. In fact, I would encourage you to always ask questions. Always try to learn more, because that's the last thing scammers want, is for you to be asking them about their business, because you're going to eventually suss out, the more they talk to you about it, that they're illegitimate. Don't be afraid to hang up. This is another thing, and this will help you avoid being put on a sucker list. If you just don't answer or hang up, then they don't have that opportunity to rope you in. And never be afraid. If you're uncomfortable, if somebody calls you and they're putting a lot of pressure on you, if you're uncomfortable, you can just hang up. And another one, don't click the link, because it might not be a telephone call. You can also get fraudulent texts as well, sending you links. Don't click the link, because one, it could put you on a sort of text sucker list, as they're referred, which unfortunately is kind of a rude term for it, but that's what they call it. So don't click the links. And this goes for email as well. If you're suspicious of a link and you don't know where it's coming from, don't click it. Particularly with email, senders links can be sort of impostered to where the link reads as something, but then if you mouse over the link, it'll actually tell you exactly where it's sending you, so you can sort of scrutinize links that come to you in your email. It's a little bit harder to do with text, but generally speaking, avoid clicking links that are coming from places that you're unfamiliar with. And if you're getting a text from somebody you've done business with, such as Walgreens or CVS or Microsoft, or you're getting a tech support thing, if they send you a link, feel free to get on the internet and look up their number and give them a call. And again, you can contact us. This is our consumer protection number. It's 1-833-681-1895. 1-833-681-1895, and you can contact us at consumerprotection@oag.ok.gov. Complaint forms can be found at the website listed there. If you go on our website and go under the Consumer Protection tab, you can be linked to a consumer complaint form. So if you fear that you've been a victim of fraud, feel free to reach out to our office, and please let us know, because that's how we know who to enforce against and what cases to open. And then go ahead and add yourself to our Do Not Call Registry, and the link is there listed. And again, you can find that on our website. So thank you guys for having me. And after Charles shares, I believe we'll be open to questions. So Charles, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Thanks, Caleb. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and get right into the presentation, but before, as I'm getting this lined up, me make sure we've got everything so you guys can see it. Hopefully you're all seeing that. I probably won't take as much as time as I intended to. Caleb's covered a lot of. Yes, ma'am.
Looks like you are in presenter mode. If you want to just, perfect. There you go. Thank you so much.
The if if I go through these too fast, or if you see something come up and I don't cover the entire slide, I know that these slides will likely be available through the insurance department. And if they're not there, you can contact the Attorney General's office and the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, and we'd be happy to provide you with a copy of this PowerPoint presentation. So we've got a limited amount of time today, and I will try and cover not overdo what Caleb's already talked about and cover some areas that he didn't. I would encourage everybody, if you have a question, we are saving some time at the end. Definitely put that in a chat and we'll try and get it answered for you. As you heard earlier, I'm part of the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit here at the Attorney General's office. We do try and direct most of our activities towards Medicaid fraud control. We do, however, have jurisdiction and do investigate other types of crimes that may be committed against Oklahoma citizens where the Medicaid component may not be there, primarily in long-term care setting, so nursing homes, residential care, treatment facilities, rehab facilities. So we've got a pretty broad jurisdiction. And I think any law enforcement agency would tell you this. You know, if you don't know where to report something, choose one of the various law enforcement agencies, either at the local, county, or state level. In our case, the Attorney General's office. Whoever you talk to will get you to someone, and hopefully in short order, that can address whatever the issue is you're wanting to raise, even if it's outside of the first agency that you contact. So reporting issues or concerns, I think everyone would encourage you to do that, and I will as well. So we get referrals various ways. We have a hotline, which you'll get that information at the end of this presentation. Family members, current former employees of facilities, and that's a nursing home, some sort of long-term care facility, hospitals, local police departments or sheriffs frequently reach out to us after they are contacted about some event or incident that maybe they don't have specialized personnel to deal with. Oklahoma Department of Human Services as well. We coordinate with that agency as well as the Department of Health. Depending on what the issues are, we may get referrals from either of those agencies. Local district attorneys or prosecutors' offices. Can't think of an instance where a municipal prosecutor contacted us, but I'm sure it's happened. But we deal with the district attorneys in the various judicial districts or DA districts throughout the state. And then we sometimes will get alerted to potential events that are occurring, schemes that are occurring from other states' Medicaid fraud control units. And there are 53 different Medicaid fraud control units if you include the territories, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. So we get our complaints from a wide vast, and we get a lot of complaints from citizens directly. In the context of what we do, in neglect, financial exploitation, frequently it's involving elderly, incapacitated, or vulnerable adults here in the state of Oklahoma. We're talking about caretakers, the vulnerable adults themselves, or family members, or an elderly person. In Oklahoma, for purposes of our investigations and ultimately prosecutions, even though you may be 63 and not consider yourself elderly, under Oklahoma law, you're elderly for purposes of the types of investigations we conduct. And if there is a prosecution that is commenced as a result of the investigation, and the statutory reference is down on the side. Vulnerable adult is also defined by statute in Oklahoma, so that we can identify who's in and who's out in terms of for investigative purposes and also potentially prosecutions. I'll let you read that, but essentially it's what you think. It's someone who, for whatever reason, has difficulty with the things that go on in everyone's lives, taking care of their finances, taking care of their personal affairs outside of the finances, their physical health and safety. And so they're in a position where, or they've reached a point at which they may not be able to look out for themselves, for lack of a better description. And so others are looking out for them. That may be a caretaker. Caretaker is defined by statute as well, and it covers a wide swath of people. And it's people who either through a contract or voluntarily or out of friendship potentially take on the role of helping out a vulnerable person or an elderly person in some of the things that go on from day to day in everyone's lives, whether that be getting them back and forth or getting someone back and forth to doctor's appointments, taking care of household chores, banking transactions. There's a lot of activity that could be covered. And if you have someone helping you with this, or someone that is getting that type of assistance, the person providing it probably would be considered a caretaker under Oklahoma law. And this is a slide that probably deals more with the a residential sort of nursing home long-term care concept. And this, I'm going to fly through this for you guys. Those are sort of the general categories: physical abuse, sexual abuse, drug diversion, exploitation, neglect, psychological abuse. We regularly investigate in every category that you see on the screen there. I've not included some aspects of this in the presentation today, and I would encourage you, if you have more interest in finding out about some of those other areas not covered, just get in contact with the insurance department. They can put you in contact with us or contact us directly. So what we will cover is abuse and neglect. We try and identify when we become aware of circumstances where there's possibility someone's been neglected. These are examples of what neglect and what we see from time to time. Failure to provide protection for a vulnerable adult who is unable to protect his or her own interest. I won't read all of these for you. Some of it's pretty self-explanatory. When you're looking at a slide, it gets a little murkier if you're the victim and you think this may be happening to you, or you're a family member or loved one. If there's a suspicion that someone you or someone you know is being neglected by a caretaker, then that's something that you can very easily report to the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, or depending on what's going on, the first stop in a real emergent situation would be to contact local law enforcement through 911 or directly. And I would encourage everybody to do that. But you can always reach out to us here at the AG's office. We do have an online form, and we have agents that a large part of their duties every day they're special agents in charge, and so they're supervisory as they review every complaint that comes in, so that we can make an assessment about whether or not we need to pursue an investigation and open a case for those purposes. Part of neglect is abuse. They kind of go hand in hand. We use both terms, and that can range, as you can see on the slide, from anything that would inflict an injury, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, restraint or confinement, mental anguish, not providing food, clothing, shelter, making sure that the health care is taken care of. Those are all potentially criminal actions when they're committed. And those are the types of things that we investigate at the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, and where appropriate, pursue criminal prosecutions. Some signs to look out for abuse and neglect. Obviously, if you feel like you're a victim, you know these things are going on from a family member perspective or from a friend or loved one. Unexplained bruises, cuts, burns, dehydration, malnutrition, and that's usually just an overall appearance thing, or a extreme loss of weight over a short period of time. That's usually either potentially could be abuse and neglect in terms of withholding food. I would encourage everyone also to get in to see your healthcare provider on that, because that also sometimes is a sign of some sort of underlying health condition. Overly medicated or sedated, so they're just not themselves. They're normally very boisterous or talkative, and all of a sudden they're not. And there's no real explanation. Nothing's happened that would indicate they're not talkative today because something happened they read in the news, or some event occurred, loss of a loved one, that might make people their mood shift. Lack of normal grooming, probably a little tougher to see. It's been my experience in these investigations, because first you have to know what normal was. But if you're one of those people who has familiarity with someone and you notice this type of thing, departure from what they would normally, their normal appearance, then definitely that's potentially a sign of abuse and neglect. Personality changes that kind of go hand in hand with the medicated or sedated. Sometimes personalities change. It's very temporary. I would encourage everyone to look out for the types of changes that there's no real explanation for, and also seem to be more long-term. It might be an indication that there's ongoing abuse and neglect. Shame, fear, and embarrassment. They don't want to talk about the bruises and cuts. They change the subject when you try and bring these issues up to them. And these are all signs, I think, for victims. They know, or in certain situations are aware, and they're just afraid to report it. For family members, loved ones, caregivers, definitely you're in a position to know when these types of things are going on. And I can tell you, we have some where we investigate it and there is no abuse or neglect going on. You just have explanations for some of the things that are seen, and we're just as happy with that outcome, and maybe happier than when we find out there's been some criminal conduct and you've got a victim and we have to prosecute someone. The penalties for abuse and neglect are felonies in most cases. Imprisonment's a possibility for up to 2 years, and fines of up to $10,000 or both. The part about the 85%, I'd be happy to discuss that with anybody. Essentially, there are certain crimes in Oklahoma, if you're convicted and they're on the list of the 85% crimes, the person convicted is required to spend 85% of their sentence actually incarcerated before they're eligible for probation or parole. Exploitation, and this goes more in line with the discussion today, and it's usually financial exploitation. And that runs the gamut. Any sort of unjust, improper use of resources of a vulnerable adult for the other person's benefit. I know the slide doesn't say that, but in a real plain way, that's what's going on. And it happens in a myriad of ways, many of which Caleb covered. Some of these efforts, these crimes that people commit against the elderly and the vulnerable in the state and other states, the way they do that is they get into the person's confidence, trust. Caleb covered some of the ways to avoid that, or at least check with other people to make sure that this person's worthy of your trust, or people in some instances are worthy of your trust. There's very few things, I would say, in the line of financial transactions in particular, where you have to do it in the next 20 minutes. You know, even in the context of one of the scams that Caleb mentioned, where you've got a loved one that's supposedly in distress, you know, giving someone access to the financial means to address this may seem like a good thing, but the tire, the being in jail, the various methods that they use, where we're trying to pull at sort of the emotional strings of whoever they're trying to victimize, those things will still be there the following day. And so, you know, don't rush in. I think and I think Caleb mentioned this, that's probably the best advice, is don't rush into those things. Make a reasoned decision with as much information as you feel is comfortable, including not doing it immediately and gathering more information up. I think I'm running out of time here, but I would comment a lot of the things that are on this list. Practically everything we do these days, we can do on a cell phone. And so the one comment that I'm seeing in some of our investigations is, you know, be careful who has access to your cell phone. If they get an unlocked cell phone and they can open an app, Venmo is a popular thing now. People can very easily use that, put the cell phone back where it was, and you never know what's happened to you until you get your bank statement. So securing your electronic devices, like your cell phone, if you happen to have a laptop or a tablet, you know, just be conscious of the fact that there are people in the world who will, hey, I need to use your cell phone. Meanwhile, they're downloading an app on your phone and transferring all your personal information off of it. Or they're accessing a financial app on your phone and they're utilizing that to get access to your financial accounts. So keeping that cell phone in your pocket, in your purse, in your hand, will go a long way in preventing that type of crime occurring, at least through your electronic device. The penalties are severe potentially for financial exploitation, and we vigorously pursue prosecutions and investigations related to that when it's reported to our office. And so if you're aware of those situations, that you're the victim, or hopefully not, or a family member or someone you're close to, encourage them to report it. It will get investigated and dealt with in an appropriate way. This would only apply to people in nursing homes. This one's sort of a nursing home type issue, but it could also be in a home setting. I think we're running out of time here. Solicitation, I think Caleb covered. be careful who you give anything to. I think most people like to help others when they can, but there are people who they're day in and day out, they're out trying to exploit that kindness that a lot of people extend to others. And so just be cognizant of the fact that and stay in control of your own resources. I'm going through some of these kind of fast so we can get to some questions here. That's our contact information. Again, I kind of rushed through my portion of this, but feel free to contact us outside of the this program if you want to discuss it more, and I'll pass this over to the moderator.
Okay, awesome, Charles. I do actually have a couple of questions for you guys if you want to come back on camera. The first one I think is probably going to be for Charles because it relates to a lot of what you were talking about people taking care of others. I heard a commercial this morning about some of these small houses that are opening up to take care of elderly individuals. It's sort of an alternative to nursing homes. And it kind of rang a bell with me because I was curious, who is regulating it? It sounded like it's just a small house, maybe has 5 or 6 beds in it, but that they're providing a lot of the same services that one might receive in a nursing home setting. Is there any regulation of these small houses, and how is that working?
Yeah, I mean, I can confirm this. Those are regulated through the State Department of Health. So there's a licensing scheme in place for people to apply for that type of license. And we have an open investigation right now that involves one of those types of setups. So they usually are small, and what people are essentially doing is they're taking what was a personal residence, maybe with 5 or 6 bedrooms, and then they are leasing those out. So it's different than a sort of a on-site apartment style or hotel style assisted living center. And my comment there would be, I think frequently there are instances where people don't get into the right sort of care setting. And so, you need to be cognizant and aware of what type of care you want from whichever type of setting you're going into, and making sure that they can really provide that. And staffing would be the biggest issue. Those types of entities usually don't provide in-home skilled nursing care. And so if you need that aspect, you're probably going to have to make those arrangements. They may help you coordinate that. But, those entities are regulated through the State Department of Health, as almost all residential homes of any type are. And we do investigate that type to the extent potential crimes or circumstances are reported to us. We have jurisdiction to go in and look at those things.
Next question for Caleb. The voice cloning, that was news to me. Grandparent scam's been around for a long time, but this voice cloning technology, as you were talking about it, what was going through my mind is other places where that voice cloning could be used to perpetrate fraud. But as it relates to the grandparent scam, is there any idea how these bad guys are making that connection between the grandparent and the grandchild? I mean, where are they getting their data to say, okay, I need to call Tom Smith to record his voice so I can call Grandma Smith about this scam?
Yeah, it's a great question, and a lot of times for the voice mimicking, they'll sort of, the way they get the sort of bits that they need to piece together a cloned voice is they'll call you and in hopes that you will answer and say, hello, this is so and so, and then they have those little sound bites, and they can use technology to sort of synthesize that into a pseudo. I mean, if you listen carefully, you could tell it's a sort of robotic. There's a little bit of a robotic tone to it. Generally speaking, the less bits they have to work from, the more sort of off the voice will sound. But generally speaking, It's my understanding that email access is a big one. So getting access to either your email or somebody else's email, this comes with, password usage and making sure that you use different passwords across all your different accounts and devices, because once your email is compromised, they can know everything about you. So if I'm a good grandchild and I like to email my grandparents and say, hey, you can navigate a lot of channels through people's emails, and so I know that's a big one. And then there might be ways to associate phone numbers. A lot of times, these people are spoofing calls, so you'll see, it'll come up as a 918, right? And so it's possible that they have information of phone plans and can make the connection that way. But as far as I'm concerned, usually what I see is that, or what I'm aware of, is that they make connections to your friends and loved ones through access to your email.
And I wasn't even thinking about it, but Facebook. I mean, a lot of my family members I'm friends with on Facebook, so it wouldn't take that much difficulty to look at my friends list to see who I have, on there to make that same connection. So that's really good information. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We are out of time, but this was really good information, and hopefully we can do this again next year. So for everybody that participated, we really appreciate you joining us today. The recording of today's webinar will be available later on today. You can go to our website at www.oid.ok.gov/senior fraud. And you'll find that, as well as the other recordings for our previous webinars as well. Those are available for your use. Don't forget, join us next week. We'll be talking about Medicare fraud. It will also be on Wednesday at 10 a.m. If you have not registered, go to that same website, oid.ok.gov/senior fraud, to register for that event. Last thing I want to say, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. But folks, unless you take the information that was shared today and share it with other people, or apply it to your own life and take the opportunity to report any suspected fraud, we're not going to get ahead of this problem. So please be a very vigilant consumer. Take the time to report any suspected fraud and help us out with this problem. So with that, I will bid you a good day and hope everybody has a great week. Bye-bye.
Everyone be safe. Thank you much.